Player One, welcome to the Gaming History Club. My name is Gabby.
Hello, and I'm JP. Contrary to what your parents may have told you growing up, video games turns out actually really good for you, and in tons of different ways too. So in today's episode of Gaming History Club, we will give you even more reasons to love video games.
Well, Player One, it has actually been a while that we're back recording an episode. We've not been in this recording room for quite a while now, so we might be a little bit more hyped than usual for today's episode.
Very hype, very hype. I'm so excited to record again. For Player One, there's an episode dropping every 2 weeks, and on the dot, mind you. But yeah, we took a little bit of a break. So yeah, very excited for us to bring back this episode for.
Yeah, that's true. We last recorded about almost 2 months ago.
Yeah.
At this point, we just wanted to take a bit of break, so we did a little bit of a sprint of a few episodes.
Yes.
So we didn't, so you don't miss us kind of deal.
Yeah, of course, they would be missing us. So excuse if we are a little bit giddy right now and super excited. And we may have not been recording episodes for a while. We have been very productive with Gaming History Club, though, haven't we? So we are now on YouTube with a fancy audiogram. So you can get hypnotized by our audiogram and listening to us on the podcast on YouTube now. So if you want to show your friends real quick, hey, check these guys out, bam, just go on YouTube.
Yeah, and also, if you haven't realized this by now, Player One, happy birthday to us, because we first released an episode last year on the 2nd of August. So yeah, it's been a year since Gaming History Club began.
Birth of the Arcade. And you know what? I think we can probably let Player One in on our little secret. But yeah, Birth of the Arcade is by far our most popular episode too, in terms of listeners and downloads.
Yeah, wow. And that was the first one, which we still use old equipment as well. But anyway.
Hopefully season 2 will be even more exciting and even better than season 1, huh?
We have seasons now?
It's been a year, so you could say it's season 2 now, right?
Okay. But anyway, let's celebrate that anniversary by listing all the reasons of why video games are great. It's not like you need to know that, Player One, but it's good, isn't it, to be able to tell your parents, hey, video games are great for me.
Yeah, there's so many of them as well, because I'm sure that sometimes we will have come across some of them anyway. I certainly did. I was aware of some, but there's many that you may have not been privy to, that and there really is so many different categories. So we're gonna sprint through them a little bit, though, aren't we? Because there is actually so many. So we won't go into too much detail into each little one. What's your favorite benefit, you think, of playing video games to you?
I guess it's utilizing my time without feeling like I'm wasting time.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like it's the default.
Yeah.
You
Is it
know?
because you feel more of a proactive participant in what's happening? So you're not just like passively watching, you're actually actively taking part in something. So maybe it feels less brain dead, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Definitely. What about
Nice.
you?
So I like that it makes me interested in other things. So like skateboarding, for example. I don't think I would have ever tried that unless like I played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 as a kid. I may have probably never been interested to try that, but love playing skateboarding games, so I decided to try the real life thing once. Yeah, I think that's my favorite benefit.
Do you think playing Cyberpunk making you wanting to be a hacker?
Yeah, it kind of does, definitely. It always makes me want to change all my themes for like my computer and my phone. I'm like, yeah, I want to be real cyberpunk now. Everything has to be like fancy colors and flashy and yeah, pixelated font.
Yeah, like just wanting to be Netrunner. Yeah, there you go. There are so many benefits of video games. We love them all. But let's start off by looking at how games benefit an individual's body, mind, and soul first. So the
Yes.
cognitive stuff, right?
Hmm.
I'd like to start off by myth busting the myth that gaming can lead to poorer concentrations, or in other words, lead to shorter attention spans.
I like this. I like this one. Starting off with this one because I heard that one a lot growing up.
Mm,
From like listening to adults in the background, like, oh yeah, they got no attention span. People say the same thing about people these days. You know, with
yeah.
TikTok and stuff, like, oh, they got no attention span.
Well, we're not talking about social media in this case, but
I know, but it's a myth that just will not stop. It's always about the youth not having any attention span. Maybe it's because they're kids. I
yeah.
mean, who knows?
Have you ever thought of that? Yeah, a recent study from this year, published in the British Journal of Psychology, found that regular gamers perform better on tasks measuring cognitive functions such as attention and memory. So, when I said from this year, it's 2024, by the way, just so that we're clear on the
Yeah.
year.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, the study involved three tests: a simple reaction test, a task that involved switching between responding to combinations of numbers and letters, and a maze based activity. And the participants were split into groups of people who played more than 7 hours of action based video games each week and those that did not. So during this activity, the researchers found that regular gamers were able to complete the number letter task 12.7% better and the maze task 17.4% quicker than the group of non gamers. So, play video games, player one. Apparently,
Yes.
you're getting quicker.
A better cognition. Yeah.
Yes.
So problem solving in general, we could call it that.
Yeah, and Dr. Mark Campbell explains that, in line with previous work out of our lab, this research may have implications in sectors where cognitive performance is paramount, such as surgery and air traffic control, where video game play could be encouraged to help develop the elite cognitive performance required. But you know what? Don't get me wrong. It's not that because you play Two Point Hospital, you can be a surgeon the next day. I think what they mean is just like it can be used to improve cognitive performance.
Don't just like, that is really mean to say. Listen, if you play Two Point Hospital, you can definitely become a surgeon. There's just other work involved there as well. Okay.
Yeah, you may be inspired though. That's okay.
Yes.
So, interestingly, this study actually went a step further. They tried to discover whether gamers are any more resilient to cognitive fatigue than non gamers. So, some participants were assigned an additional task designed to require concentration for long periods of time to bring out about cognitive fatigue, and then went back to the normal test. So, the results appear to show that gamers are not any more resilient to cognitive fatigue, and both gamers and non gamers worsen at the same rate. So, this leads to suggest that playing games does not lead to poorer concentration skills, but whilst the gamer and non gamer are feeling refreshed, the gamers perform better. But I'm gonna take it a step further that it means both gamers and non gamers need rest after performing all of this task.
Yeah, that's the key takeaway out of this study. Take
Yeah,
a break
take a
from
break.
from these cognitive psychology tests. Definitely step away from them once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
Video games benefit many areas of gamers' cognition, though. And for the sake of time, let's just start listing through some more of them. So, playing 3D games improves recognition ability and spatial memory. There's improved reaction times, which that makes a lot of sense because how often in your day-to-day life, especially outside of sports, do you actually have to react as quickly as possible?
Like a lot. I guess when you're driving, it's one of the examples that I can think of.
I mean, yeah, you should be alert, but I mean, do you like, oh my god, it's red, and you just pump the brake as quickly as possible hard? Yeah, no, okay, fair point, yeah. But I think in general, though, honestly, like you wouldn't be. There's not that often really where your reaction times are tested so thoroughly and so consistently as games, especially like first person shooter, right? Counter Strike, right? Um,
But to be fair, you love that though. You love playing catch this out of nowhere.
that is true. Yeah, here, catch this. Yeah, bowling ball. There's improved mental flexibility, so meaning how quickly someone can switch between tasks and adapting to change. Multitasking, especially tracking multiple objects at the same time. Improved visual to auditory attentional shifting ability. That sounds like a superpower. And that's important for things such as information processing and reading abilities. But it's important to keep in mind, though, that not playing a game is going to make you better at all of these different cognitive things. So, like in FPS, will definitely improve perhaps your uh, tracking multiple objects ability, and then others may benefit you in some other areas. So not every game is going to make you like a cognition superpower superhero. Yeah,
Yes.
basically. So to wrap up cognitive benefits of video games, something we'd really like to highlight as well is that these benefits certainly also apply to children. The US National Institutes of Health found in a study of nearly 2,000 children that those playing games for 3 hours per day or more performed better on cognitive skills tests involving impulse control and working memory compared to children who had never played video games. So for some people that might sound like a lot, 3 hours per day, but it shows that even such a long time per day could have some benefits for your child. So I don't want to tell anyone else how to parent, but I personally feel like impulse control is probably something that a lot of adults would probably very much like to instill in their children, right? To not
Yeah.
have
Mm.
tantrums, to be able to control your emotions and that kind of thing, right? Because when I was a younger kid, I remember the parents of my friends, it was often a rule where it's like, okay, no more than like 1 hour per day.
Mm.
Because I feel like more is probably like not that healthy for you. Probably because it has something to do with the perception of like spending too much time in front of the TV
Mm.
more than the video game itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, but even if it's like 3 hours per day, there is some benefits to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not so black and white, really. Yeah, and lastly, to be perfectly fair here and trustworthy at Gaming History Club, cognitive benefits will not always translate to meaningful benefits in the real, practical world, but some definitely will. Like the doctor we spoke about earlier, who said
Mhm.
that, like, well, this would translate well for someone who's maybe a surgeon or an air traffic controller, where cognitive abilities are paramount in order to do your job well and avoid mistakes. But if you're yeah, you may be playing video games and get better at cognition, but it might not translate into benefits in real life. So like the reaction times, for example. Now maybe you don't need reaction times anyway in your own day-to-day life, so whatever. Yeah.
Right, so next, let's look at some overall mental health benefits. On a very basic level, playing games can provide relief from stress. And you know what? I'm tempted to make a joke here about how playing Call of Duty or Resident Evil perhaps wouldn't, because they're quite stressful. Even those games, though, actually will provide escapism from very real anxieties and stress people will encounter as part of their lives. So, a controlled, safe, exciting stress can relieve from an actual, even existential worry. And there's nothing wrong with occasional safe spaces there.
No, absolutely not. I think you hit the nail on the head when you say escapism because they're different types of stresses. Yeah. I just broke up with my girlfriend and there's a zombie chasing me in a video game. Definitely two different stresses and it can distract, can't it? Right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
But even when it isn't to escape stress, playing games can help mood improvement in general. That's why I always let JP play video games.
Thank you.
That's exactly
It's
why.
very good for my mood.
I know. That's it. When perhaps there's no specific stress or anxiety or fear to seek refuge from, when we're bored, lonely, exhausted, cynical, games can just generally improve our moods and bring us back to baseline. These benefits are great and useful for all of us, though sadly they are somewhat short term for sure. Games are greatly beneficial for serious mental health conditions too.
Yeah, games also have a therapeutic use. A relatively new concept that is still somewhat in its infancy. Games are being developed to target treatment from things like PTSD and depression, for example. If you want to delve more into the topic, though, please check out our other episodes on accessibility and neurodiversity. I found one as part of my research, though, Sparks, for example. Really cool game. Sparks stands for Smart, Positive, Active, Realistic, X Factor Thoughts. And it's a free online game, also made available on mobile, that was developed by a team of doctors, researchers, and clinicians from the University of Auckland in New Zealand. And in the game, the enemies, which are so called GNATs, which stands for Gloomy Negative Automatic Thoughts, attack the player by saying things like, oh, you're a loser. But then throughout the game, there's a guide and it'll explain to you how to use what you've learned from playing the game to feel better and solve problems and enjoy real life. And although this game is catered towards helping people, especially young people with mild to moderate depression, stress, and anxiety, it has also been found to help the LGBTQ plus adolescents to feel like they have more of a safe space. So I think that's a really, really cool game and great demonstration of the power of video games to have a very that's not just something from like playing the game in general.
Yeah.
Like that game was made to teach you a very specific thing, like how to have some tools available to help with depression, right?
Yeah. So to finish off the mind, body, soul categories of
Trinity.
benefits,
The Trinity
yes,
of video game benefits.
let's look into the body part of things.
Ooh.
Ooh. Let's get physical. Yeah. So these benefits are also very myth busting to the gamer stereotypes of ages past. On a fundamental level, it has always been true that games improved hand eye coordination and motor skills, but that didn't do much to improve the player's overall fitness and physical health.
No, just thumb strength in general, I guess, really.
Yeah,
Mm.
although there are rhythm games like DDR, Dance Dance Revolution, and the other games that it has inspired, like Just Dance, and the camera game craze from the 2000s and 2010s, with the PS2's iToy, Xbox Kinect, and of course the Nintendo Wii with its balance board.
Oh man, there was a lot going on in 2000s and 2010s with this, wasn't there? Actually, if you think about
Yeah,
it, yeah.
that's true, and they've actually done much to improve the stereotype of the couch slouching consolero or hunch over PC gamer stereotypes. You want to do aerobics at home but still want to have some goofy fun? No problem. Video games sort that out for you. And the really cool thing is, these games are timeless. There really isn't much need to keep up with the newest gaming trends if this is like your type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
On a more serious note, though, virtual reality can be used together with physical therapy to provide a better rehabilitation experience for sufferers of stroke and cancer, for example, because traditional therapy includes long, painful, and repetitive, and therefore boring and monotonous exercises. But with VR, it can assist the rehabilitation process by providing a more fun, engaging, and effective challenges within this VR environment. Most importantly, the sensation of pain is somewhat reduced as the players are immersed in a VR simulation that can distract the mind.
So now that we've explored the benefits of games to the individual, mind, body, and soul, let's look at some other ways that we benefit from video games, directly as well as indirectly. A good place to start is on the social level, because no matter how introverted or socially anxious or awkward you are, interacting with other humans is necessary, practically speaking, as well as for your own sanity, regardless of what people might say to the contrary. Though certainly not absolutely all games, many, many games emphasize teamwork and collaboration to win and beat your opponents. These games come in many flavors too, for competition between groups of players, as well as fun player versus computer games. Games also provide communities, and these communities can range from casual game forums to highly competitive esports or crazy speedrunning, Twitch streaming, and chats. There's a community for any type of player out there, really. So, while this is a great way of making friendships and feeling part of a community on a personal level, players can build communication skills they may otherwise not easily build. If you live in a small rural area, you're really not the outgoing type, or maybe young people stuck at home during lockdown for extensive periods of time, communication skills can obviously really help and have a huge effect on your quality of life, right? So yeah, definitely, games will provide that for you, and in a safe space too. Yeah, it can just be verbally over text. It can be with video if you really want to. Obviously, it's not going to replace that real world interaction, but if you
Yeah.
have for some reason a dislike for like big spaces, large crowds, or
Yeah.
you don't like strangers, that kind of thing, then video games will help you still be good at that to some extent that you need to for real life because you're not going to avoid it completely. And also educational, of course. Talking about communication skills, this leads nicely into our other category here of benefits, education. And education games really got off on a wrong foot, with some few exceptions like the Oregon Trail, right?
Yeah.
But these so-called edutainment games were more often than not bad games and taught you superficial snippets you'd likely forget pretty quickly after you put the game down. But we've come a long way in this regard too. There are, of course, education programs that gamify the learning experience, like in online courses, right? But we won't talk about that. Let's talk about real games here, okay? So just like Hideo Kojima mentions, quote unquote, a good game should get you interested in other things. And a great poster boy example of this is the space flight simulation game that I'm going to use as an example, Kerbal Space Program. So, in KSP for short, you take control of space programs for little green aliens with square heads called Kerbals.
Oh.
So cute. The game features a realistic physics engine, and players can build space travel vehicles like rockets and rovers, and you can launch them into orbit where you perform real maneuvers and procedures like flybys and docking. So, I mean, although the game isn't like a perfect simulation. It's not a simulation, it's a game after all. It has been widely praised by spaceflight's juggernauts, corporations, including NASA, ESA, I mean the European Space Agency, not the speedrunning one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and SpaceX even. But the game is reviewed overwhelmingly positive as well by actual gamers. So much so that with just under 100,000 reviews on Steam, it sits at a very comfortable 95% positively reviewed rating. So here we can see, like, the big official space companies saying, like, oh, yeah, this is actually quite realistic in terms of like bringing the subject up as a form of like this is how things are done right now, but also gamers saying like, oh, I really enjoy playing this game. Like these two things are coming together here. Yeah. So while the game will not replace your space aircraft engineering degree or make you an astronaut, it will teach you the very real basic concepts of many things relating to space travel, and it's fun too.
Yeah, and there are also games that teach programming in a fun way, such as Code Combat, that teach programming language like Java and Python. Games can also be repurposed for learning. Playing a game in a different language, for example, to replace your daily Duolingo streak might be a pretty good idea to challenge yourself because, just expand your horizon from Duolingo, duh.
Yeah, play Pokemon in Japanese. See what
Yeah,
happens.
see how much you understand. They're also great to expose people to new concepts and ideas, things they may not otherwise have had any interest in, simply from a lack of exposure. Skateboarding, for example, like you said before, or really random things like what did Athens look like in 400 BC? Well, there you go. Play Assassin's Creed Odyssey,
Yeah,
and
that's a great example
yeah,
because it's. I mean, there's this information there, but there's also this experience level. Like, this is what it would have looked like if you just walk around, right? That's not something you put into words.
yeah,
It's like I can picture myself having been there because I was there in a video game, right?
yeah.
Mm.
But you know what? Let's get down to business now. Quite literally. I
Ooh,
mean, yeah, can games benefit you professionally? Yeah, 100%.
but first, an advert from our sponsor. No, just kidding.
No, we don't have that. Thanks. But yeah, 100%, directly or indirectly, actually. It's safe to say that many people have benefited professionally from games, even if they've never played a game in their entire life somehow. The gaming industry is massive, and in terms of profit, towers over other entertainment industries. Career opportunities like game development and design or competing in esports are only scraping the surface. It's full of business opportunities too. It provides revenue stream to voice actors, musicians, artists, web designers, programmers, analysts to sell their service and products as well. But what we want to highlight here mostly are transferable skills, whether directly from gaming or supporting the development or deployment of games. There are skills that can be learned that enhance your career, such as project management or strategic planning. They are transferable to many professional environments.
And last but not least, let's take a look at creative benefits. Many games want you to unlock your own inner creative spirit. Whether it's Minecraft, SimCity, or The Sims, these games allow you to be creative in a way you usually may not be able to be. You may never had any interest whatsoever in designing a house, but you can do casually in The Sims, and who knows, maybe you even enjoy it and get hooked on it. Compare wanting to simply be creative building a house or apartment building in a world without video games, yeah? If you had any interest in architecture just 50 years ago, the closest thing aside from actually becoming an architect would be probably to draw a building on a piece of paper. And that is where I'm trying to highlight the creative power of video games, that power of expression you can have, yeah, without actually having to go and make a degree or just drawing things on a piece of paper.
Yeah, but to be fair, when you design a house in The Sims, sometimes it's not making sense. It can be so strange where you have the second floor a lot bigger than the first floor. You know what? It's been a while since I played The Sims. I don't know if you can still do that,
You can
but
make some pretty
I
alien buildings, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's true.
exactly. But there are Facebook groups dedicated to people who likes to build nice things on The Sims,
Mm.
which is very very nice. Like they replicate some Victorian houses, or even they replicate like English terraced houses.
Oh, fancy. Oh,
Fancy, sure, if you call it that.
very posh.
Very posh indeed.
Yeah, Minecraft is obviously also a great example, right? Though it's graphically very humble. What you can build is entirely left up to your imagination, and you don't even have to buy extra Lego bricks either. You can just, yeah, let your kid play Minecraft instead. Infinite amount of blocks. Yes. So, if you needed another excuse to play video games, Player One, now is your chance to go away and do so, or listen to another episode of Gaming History Club.
Yeah, but what about you, Player One? What is the greatest benefit that games have brought to you? Let us know by dropping us a message on our website, gaminghistory.club. You can also just say hi to us, or if you have any cool topics you want us to talk about, please drop us a message. And don't forget that new episodes of Gaming History Club are released every other Wednesday, so make sure you subscribe and follow us on our social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook as Gaming History Club.
Yeah, come back in a couple of weeks, Player One, and we will go back to doing what we do best, talking about some history of video games. Next time, the evolution of controllers, gamepads, joysticks, whatever you want to call the thing that you hold in your hands while you play video games. See ya.